Hello, I'm John Molesky, and this is Wilson Center Now, a production of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. Today, our topic is Mexico's international development agenda, and we have a terrific guest to help us sort that out. But before you meet her, I want to introduce you to our other guest. He is Andrew Rudman, director of the Wilson Center's Mexico program. And Andrew, I'm going to give you the honor of introducing our special guest.
Thanks, John. Very much appreciated. Great to be with you, and great to be with Dr. Laura Carrillo, who is the executive director of AMEXCID, which is the Mexican International Development Cooperation Agency. It's great to have you with us here in Washington this week.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, and welcome, Dr. Carrillo. Let's start with an overview of AMEXCID. Created in 2011, so relatively new agency. Right. Could you describe for us what the mission is?
Sure. So originally the mission was to bring aid, humanitarian aid, whenever needed in the whole world, actually. But it's not only the Mexican agency. I think all agencies in the world, we got to a point where we knew that if we help each other to ensure development in our countries, then we will need less and less aid for disasters, for instance. We could lower our vulnerability if we promote development. So what we're trying to do is actually that, promote development in all the countries in the world, really. Some help others with knowledge. We can help each other with resources, all kinds of resources, to share good and experiences. So whatever we can do to ensure that our country is developing and in the good path and a good path for that, and to also ensure that countries around us and overall in the world can benefit from whatever we know what to do. We're going to share it and promote development all over.
With the notable, I'm sorry, excuse me, thank you. With the notable impact of the pandemic, which is not over yet, which has had affected just about everything on the globe. Right. How happy are you with the progress from the inception of the agency to where you are today, with that asterisk hanging over all of our heads?
Well, we are very happy to be part of the solution in our country. So when I got AMEXCID and when I got to be in charge of AMEXCID, that's 3 years ago, I never would have thought that one of my main activities for a whole year, a better part of 2 years really, was going to be helping our country and countries around us, and especially Latin America and the Caribbean, with a pandemic such as this one. Even when the pandemic started, we thought it was going to be a matter of months, and look at us now. But what we really could assess is that cooperation has played a key role in trying to do whatever we could to end this pandemic. We've worked together with not only other countries, but different sectors of our country. That's the business sector, the private sector, and also the academy, in trying to find medicines, diagnosis, and also vaccines. That's one thing. The other thing is, in cooperation, we also have worked with countries in Latin America to try to ensure that we get access to vaccines. So we were one of the first countries in Latin America who bought vaccines, even when they were not ready yet. They were just developing those. And we had to, convince our legislature, our people, really to, trust us in our belief that we needed to buy vaccines, and it paid off. But yeah, we've been helping in all of these efforts. We got ventilators all over the country. That was on AMEXCID. And also we took ventilators that Mexico produced to countries in the Caribbean and Latin America.
I think, Dr. Carrillo, that's a really interesting point, that Mexico, in the case of PPE, in the case of ventilators, and in the case of vaccines, Mexico was both a recipient of donated and purchased vaccines, and also a donor And I think that Mexico really plays an interesting role, as you pointed out earlier, as sort of a linchpin between North America and Central America and further south.
Right.
So acting as both a big brother and a little brother, if we could say.
That's right. That's right. And listen, we have family. Mexico has family in the United States and Canada and Guatemala. I mean, we are really families. So we've never closed our borders totally to people moving in and out of the country. But someone in Mexico might say, why would you donate vaccines? You don't even have all of them for yourself. But as I say, we do have our families that come together at some point that in a COVID situation, economically, we're very stressed. So we need to help each other. But we really see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
No.
On the question of cooperation, the relationship between USAID, the equivalent organization here in the US, and your organization. Talk to us about that. How deep is the partnership? How much potential is there for even more collaboration?
Well, we've found that, as I say, I've been here for 3 years. And for these 3 years, we've had a lot of dialogue. And what we're trying to do is not step in each other's feet. So we try to collaborate in the sense that we can make a strategy in which we have a certain program that USAID can take it from wherever we left it and take it to another level. There's great capacity in USAID, obviously, to work with us in Mexico, which we are doing, but also working together in Central America. And that's, as I say, one thing is to try to bind our projects together so we can take them to another level. But the other thing that we're trying to do is try to learn, share, teach whatever we're doing in our own agencies, and perhaps trying different things. What we know is working for our sister agency, and that would also include not only USAID and AMEXCID, but also other sister agencies from other countries.
Andrew, I want to ask you a question and also get Dr. Carrillo's thoughts on this. And it's this untapped potential question. One of our colleagues at the center, Tony Wayne, a former U.S. ambassador to Mexico, has written extensively about the potential for North America, for Canada, the U.S., and Mexico to even be more of a combined juggernaut than it is already economically. Your thoughts on this and how it relates to AMEXCID and USAID, and then also if Dr. Carrillo will get her thoughts on it as well.
Sure, John, that's a great question, and this came up partly in the event we just had with Dr. Carrillo, because not only is there collaboration between USAID and AMEXCID, but also with Global Affairs Canada, and that, of course, is the essence of the North American project. And I think that the pandemic recovery, the way we responded to the pandemic, is absolutely both an example of what we can do together, and if you will, a call to arms that we need to do more. We need to be better prepared so that when there is another pandemic, and sadly there will be another pandemic, that all our governments and all the agencies within those governments have the relationship, so that you'll be able to reach out to your US and Canadian colleagues and they reach out to you and immediately know what to do.
Exactly.
So I think, John, what Ambassador Wayne says all the time is absolutely true. The potential for collaboration is enormous. I think no matter how much our three governments do, there is so much more we haven't yet done.
Yeah, and also there's so much we can do isolated. We have our resources, and at some point they would end. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense to try to come together and try to, multiply our resources. Because isolated, we won't get through a certain point, a certain limit. And there is absolutely no way why we should stop when we can work together. Not only within our countries, United States, Mexico, Canada even, but you can benefit from the fact that we are in the middle of, North America and Central America and Latin America as a whole. And we understand very well the cultures, which are really different, North American from South American or Central American. And we can be a good bridge in which we can work together also to cooperate with other countries. And by cooperating, I don't mean just helping or giving in disaster situations. By cooperating with, what we mean is that we can share what we know, but we can also learn. And we can be that, as I say, we can be that bridge between what we can learn from Central America. I mean, they're the ones who are in charge of their own development, and they know how we can better help them achieve better levels of economic growth and social growth and development and overall.
Beyond the U.S. and Canada, what are some of the nations that you've been most engaged with?
So right now, the programs that have a bigger budget are allocated in El Salvador, Honduras. Next will be Guatemala, Belize, and Cuba also. And we're working with programs that are that we have installed in Mexico. They're Sembrando Vida and Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro. These are programs that we have in Mexico, and we have I think it's 20 million beneficiaries in the country. So we take those programs and we try to translate them and make them work in Central America. We have basically the same norms and regulations that we do back in Mexico. We actually have to implement them in Central America. We just need to figure out what are the legal implications of translating whatever we do in Mexico in these other countries. But the basis is the same.
Andrew, over to you. We're going to share the wealth, Dr. Carrillo. Andrew and I agreed that we would take turns asking you questions, so he's up.
Yeah. So in the event that we just concluded, Dr. Carrillo, we talked a little bit about the Sembrando Vida and Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro, and that the idea behind that is those are often perhaps confused as being a sort of an anti-migration project, and what you talked about, and maybe you could share a little bit in this conversation, is the idea that these are development projects.
Yes. So basically, and first and foremost, they are development projects. We are an agency for cooperation. As I said before, we are not an agency for migration. But obviously, when you develop a region and you get better livelihood for the people, migration will probably get lower numbers, and that's just a natural fact. So yes, it's been linked because once you help a region, once you help a community get better ways to actually live and develop, people would be less inclined to leave their community in vulnerable situations. That's the thing.
Right, and you've shown already that the desire to migrate has dropped. It's incredible how much, from what you said at the beginning, maybe more than half of the participants said they wanted to migrate down to almost none.
Exactly, because the thing is, in recent years, you've noticed we've got increasing numbers of migration, but not in a I don't want to say illegal, not illegal, those paths are not within the norm.
Right.
And that makes for a very vulnerable situation for people trying to move through borders, especially children and youth. We've seen a very important increase in children crossing the border, and that's because of the law. The law would people will even rent children, because once you get to a border with a child, then you're entitled to come through. But that does not mean there's not without these risks.
Right.
So what we're doing right now is as I say, once you have a situation in which you have a little bit of income, a little bit of money, and you're producing food, and you've got like your basic needs met, then you would not want to risk really your life or that of your families to try and find a better living elsewhere.
I want to ask you about the public opinion.
Yeah.
You know, in the United States, an unfortunate lament often by citizens is that we spend too much money overseas when we have problems here at home. It doesn't really hold up to scrutiny when you look at the actual numbers. And it also underestimates the importance of soft power. So enough editorializing from me, but what I'm asking you is, what is the level of support among Mexican citizens for your efforts and for Mexico flexing its muscles when it comes to soft power?
Right. So at first it's hard when they don't know what's going on, really. That's the natural response is, why would you give away money to other countries when we have so many struggles back home? So the thing that I say whenever I can, that's why we're here actually also, is that we're not giving it away. We're investing in development. And and in the long run, there's going to be a win-win situation for our country, of course, but also for people around the region and around the world. That's one thing. I mean, when we allocate resources and programs such as these programs, it's not we're just giving away. We are investing because we are teaching people how to make better crops. We are teaching people how to produce their own, change from chemicals to biotech produce. And we're also teaching the young people how to work, how to be disciplined, and where everybody we're teaching that they're valuable to their community. So if we have development, then for instance, the southern part of Mexico would eventually have, and that's what we're aiming for, we'll eventually have better commercial points, better prices and whatever we sell, better price and whatever we buy. We don't have to buy things from around the world. We can have it right here in Central America. So we need we see it as a part of a strategy, of a development strategy in which we're going to win. That's why it's an investment. It's an investment in the long term. And if you take the numbers, it doesn't cost that much for against whatever we're getting in benefits. It's very cost efficient, and that's why we tell people, enforcing, for instance, migration, enforcing the law, it has a high cost economically, but also it has a human component to it. So if we would think a different way, and we think, well, what if I spend a little less money in maybe, I don't know, weapons, and I spend a little more money on education? That's always been a better way to spend the resources, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah,
so
what you
yes,
describe is,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, well, just that what we need is people to understand this fact, that is not a giving away, or there's not, we're gonna give it away forever, because also we have a plan. We have a short-term plan, midterm, and in the long run, we want to move from one situation to another, because we're thinking that once we are better developed and we have better opportunities for people, even for youth, then some of the problems that we have right now, as we see them, are going to be mitigated.
Yeah, what I was just going to say, what you've made the case is that it's much more effective to treat root causes than it is to just deal with symptoms after the fact.
Exactly,
and,
by all means.
Andrew.
So let's, I guess, two quick questions. Sure. One, you talked a little bit about the resources, but maybe just talk a little bit about the funding. It's the Mexican Congress that allocates, and is that on a sort of, do you have to go back every year to the Congress? And
yes, absolutely, I have to. Yeah, so for the funding for this particular programs that I've talked about, Sembrando Vida and Jóvenes Construyendo, well, that's a fund that it was created a few years ago, and is not, it doesn't get funding every year. It just grows upon the interests of
so
that.
It's a fideicomiso.
Yeah, it's el fideicomiso.
Okay.
Now, for the rest of the cooperation that we do in the agency, we do get the budget each year, and we have to go to Congress to defend what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're doing a good job, because first they cut the funding when we got there. Then COVID came, So they were a different cut, but they told us, you know what, you're going to keep your fund, you're going to keep your budget, but try to help, COVID efforts within the country in Mexico, the whole region, the territory. And then this year we got a really bump in the budget, and that means they see that what we're doing is helping.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's nothing when Congress gives you more money that's absolutely a good sign.
It is.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So another thing that maybe we could explore that I think is really interesting, particularly with Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro, which is, I think we could say simply, to oversimplify it a little bit, it's an internship program.
Right.
It's a chance for young people to have an opportunity to work in a company.
Right.
The government pays their salary.
Right.
And so maybe just talk a little bit about the role of the private sector and civil society, because I think that sort of three-legged stool is a really interesting piece.
Yes, absolutely. So, this has its origins in Mexico, and they're called, we have a group of young people, around 3 million, it was 3 years ago. They're called ninis, which means ni estudian ni trabajan. In English would be they don't study and they don't work either. And so there's this social undermining of these people, like they're lazy, they just don't want to. And that's not the case. We really believe that in most cases, because they haven't had a chance to work because they don't have experience, but they would never get experience if they don't let them work. So what if we give them a jump start? What if we tell the businesses, small businesses, big business, you know what? Why don't you train this person in whatever you need for your business, and I'll give this person a monthly stipend. You don't have to pay this person. There's no legal contract binding them. But we really think that a young person who gets the opportunity to learn something, to get the opportunity to have discipline, to being able to demonstrate that they really want to do something for the community, for themselves, that's a win-win situation for everybody. And what we're aiming is that at the end of the program, they can get a job, or go back, or go to college. Also, we also try to get scholarships for it. But the real important thing is that they know that they can do it. The young people can demonstrate to adults, to the businesses, that they can do it. They want to do it. They get the discipline, get the feeling of what it is to accomplish something, and that makes a really, really big difference.
Absolutely.
As we move toward conclusion of the discussion, what I want to do before we end is ask both of you a forward-looking question. Not that we haven't been forward-looking in many of our exchanges so far, but I want to end on something that I'm going to ask you a question first, Andrew, and then Dr. Carrillo, I want to give you the last word. And Andrew, my question for you is, as we look at this cooperation as it relates to development, both domestically and internationally and across our border, when you look at the big picture of U.S.-Mexican relations, U.S.-Mexico relations, how important is this as a trend line versus what might blow up as a headline in any given moment? How much is this central to the relations between the nations?
John, I think this is sort of the essence, and I think to a large extent what the Biden administration was trying to do, which is broaden, deepen, and regularize the relationship. So as you were alluding to, the thing that people hear about is when there's a big crisis, and that's what gets the attention on the front page. But where the relationship, I think, really prospers, really is most effective, is in projects like this, that most people have no idea what Sembrando Oportunidades, which is the framework for cooperation with the two agencies, AID and AMEXCID. Nobody knows what that is, but that's where we're truly going to collaborate and, I think, achieve the objectives you brought up earlier, John, about that greater North American cooperation. So I think this is really a fantastic example of what does happen, and hopefully what will happen more, even though the attention from the mainstream media is likely going to be the crisis when there's some sort of a pandemic or an accident or a surge or something like that.
I apologize for that. We can't help ourselves sometimes. It's
No,
bad news leads. Dr. Carrillo, as I said, I want to give you the final word and about this forward-looking, the vision thing, as a former U.S. president called it, George Herbert Walker Bush. When you look ahead for AMEXCID and you dream about the possibilities, give us a preview into the vision of where it's headed, not just what you've been working on now, but what you think are the opportunities moving forward. What are your dreams for the organization?
For me, the sky is the limit, really. I mean, we got so many ideas, so many projects. They're in the desk, actually, just waiting for funding. And but listen, cooperation is a very noble thing that we have between our countries. Some issues maybe we don't agree, but in cooperation, I found with not only the United States or Canada, with every country, in cooperation, we do agree. And that's a very, very important door that we can open between countries. What we really want everybody to know whenever we're in a meeting is we're here to cooperate. That means we're here to share, we're here to teach, but also to learn. We give something, we take something. And that's what really makes for bigger countries and a better world for the next generation, really. So that's the thing. Is I mean, if I have had limited resources, I'll do the best that I can with them. If I had more resources, then I absolutely know what to do with them. So the thing is that we're always researching, we're always evaluating what we're doing, and that's very important, because in a certain point, when we know that then maybe you have a limited resource and it's not being used in a better way, we will find a better way to use it. We are very responsible in that sense. We are accountable in our country. They're always auditing what we're doing, which is great, because in that way, everybody has a warm feeling that we're doing the best that we can. But yeah, cooperation is, as I say, it's a great door for countries to communicate, to find ways in which we can work together, and we hope that we can improve that communication through the years.
Well, thank you, Laura Carrillo, Andrew Rudman. Thank you for joining us today. Terrific discussion. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
I also want to tell our viewers that Andrew mentioned the event that our two guests did earlier today. I would recommend that to you as well when you come to the Wilson Center website. If you check the events tab and you check past events, you can find it. You can also do it via the Mexico Institute page. That was a terrific discussion that goes into even more detail on some of the things we just talked about in this episode of Now. Again, thanks to both of you. Thanks to our viewers for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Wilson Center Now, and that you'll join us again soon. Till then, for all of us at the Wilson Center, I'm John Molesky. Thanks for being here.